Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Intuitive Angling. Really appreciate you guys making some time for the video today. And today I just wanted to sort of have just a little bit of a conversation here. I've been thinking about this quite a bit since Ray Scott passed away a couple days ago. And you know, it seems like the last couple of years we're just losing people, just icons in the sport, just right and left. You know, Forrest, Jerry McInnes, Ray Scott. It just goes on and on and on. A lot of this, the people that really, set the stage for the sport as we have it today are just passing on. And it's sort of a loss of innocence. And I sort of wanted to talk about that a little bit here, sort of have a little bit of conversation on that. Real quick, just want to remind you guys before we get started in the video, man, we're real close to hitting 70,000 subscribers. Can't believe it, man. It's just, everything's going really good. If you guys haven't had a chance to subscribe to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Help us get over the top there. That'd be much appreciated. Okay, guys, it seems like I said, it got me thinking about this. I went to grade school in a little school called Duquesne Elementary there in Joplin, Missouri, and this was like a Andy Griffith Mayberry type school. It was a real small elementary school. Everybody knew everybody. I mean, it was just so. There was such a I don't want to say, I guess a Americana feel of a simpler time, and just innocent. It was just like wholesome, all that type of stuff. There wasn't any of the injustices of the world or it was sort of insulated from a lot of the parts of society that are not good in the human experience. And so I had a real fortunate upbringing with that. And since I did experience that early on, I've got an appreciation for what that means, because I've seen the other end of the spectrum too. I've seen the dark side of civilization and man, as well as the innocence and the good side. Got me thinking about guys like Ray Scott and Forrest Wood, who started the sport. A lot of you guys out there that are younger or hadn't been around as long as myself, or a lot of guys have, you didn't really get a chance to experience what that was like when bass was sort of at their heyday back in the 80s, when Forrest Wood was a big player in the sport and Ray Scott was at the top of his game, and all these guys that are passing on now were really in charge of the sport. And it was a simpler time. It was absolutely, I think, a better time. I mean, it was just like, the sport was getting its own ground. It was getting a foundation to it. There was an energy that permeated the sport that doesn't exist today. Today, we have got so many different circuits out there, and the industry and the sport is so segmented, and technology has infiltrated every part of the sport. Money has become a prime object in it. The bass fishing is becoming, make no mistake about it, bass fishing is becoming an elitist sport, even more so than like golf. But you didn't have that back then when it started out, like in the 80s like that. I mean, a brand new fully rigged bass boat was $10,000 or $12,000. Now they're $100,000. Entry fees to the top level tournaments were $600. Bassmaster invitationals, now you're talking close to $6,000 for entry fees. So we've had a tremendous metamorphosis in the sport over the past 30 years, and not for the better, mind you. It's gotten more complicated, and we've lost that innocence. A lot of this, I think, and I don't want to say anything bad about Ray Scott and Forrest Wood because of their contributions to the sport, but Ray Scott and Forrest Wood both sold their companies out. Ray sold his baby of Bassmaster out, and Forrest Wood sold his company of Ranger boats out. Once they did that, once they lost control of their babies, they came into other hands, and that's when that loss of innocence began. I look back and I remember those were two of the pivotal moments that I have seen in the sport, is when Ranger sold out and when Ray Scott sold Bassmaster. There was a change and there was a metamorphosis in the sport that added an element of complexity to it that continues to grow today. We simply don't have those simple days of Bassmaster magazine and Harry and Charlie and Forrest Wood standing in a Ranger boat that's got the sides cut out of it showing the flotation, and and having 50 or 60 pros that defined the sport of professional fishing. And I can remember back sitting like in 6th grade at my desk, thumbing through Bassmaster magazine, and again, just that the simplicity and the innocence of it was something that stays with me. I remember when there was a change. Bassmaster changed the format of their magazine like in 1980. And when they changed the font and the format of the magazine, that's when it sort of started. It really lost a lot of that old school, true down-to-earth Bassmaster vibe that it had throughout the 70s. A lot of you guys don't really know what I'm talking about. Some of you guys out there have seen that too. But the point of this video, guys, is what I want to talk about. It's important. I think it is important in not only bass fishing, but every element of life to protect innocence as long as we can. I know, the real world's not like that, and the real world is harsh and cruel, but every one of us can do our part to keep things more of like the Mayberry and the Andy Griffiths. There's not anything wrong with that at all. And it's up to ourselves, because when we begin to lose that innocence and we begin to lose that simplicity, we take so much away from life. I mean, there's so much of life that gets transformed into other elements that are not good. Anytime you make things more complicated, anytime you advance technology to make it more complicated, anytime you make it where it's not as fun and simple as it used to be, it takes away from not only the experience in bass fishing, but everything that there is. I remember, some of my fondest memories of bass fishing, when I look back on past all my life at this point so far, is when I had nothing else but like a 6.5 foot rod, and I had a handful of black live rubber jigs and a bottle of Uncle Josh black pork frogs, and I'd take my little beat up pickup down to Table Rock Lake in my 14-foot flat bottom and go down there and bass fish. And that, looking back, that is what was powerful to me, to have that simplicity with it. You don't have that anymore now, man. It's like, you're hooking up these $200,000 rigs. You've got, you go down to Bass Pro, whatever, and you've got all this stuff that costs tens of thousands of dollars to fish with. And you get to the lake and it's just nothing but 250 horsepower outboards zooming right and left, and 600 boats on the lake, and 10 tournaments going on any given weekend on any lake. And it has taken away a lot from the magic of what it used to be early on. I know a lot of people out there, we're products of our environment, and there's a lot of people out there that can't comprehend what I'm talking about, because it's not in their frame of reference. They don't have anything to relate that to. They were products of the environment that we see right now. They were brought up in that environment. They don't know any different. But for those of us out there that are my age or even older, you guys know what I'm talking about. I don't have to explain it to you guys. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think there's a lot of value to that. So, one of the things that I'll be always talking about on this channel is being anti-progress. If any of you guys that watch Yellowstone, the TV show, remember like in the end of season 4 when Kevin Costner gets up there running for governor, and he goes, "If you're looking for progress, it's not me." He goes, "I'm the wall that is going to stop progress. I'm going to stop it like a brick wall." There is a lot of genius in that statement right there. There's a lot of things that progress is a negative. In fact, in my opinion, I think there's more negatives to it than not. I think it's important to maintain tradition, maintain simplicity, maintain innocence. That is a choice that we all have to make. That's not anything that's a given. People say you can't stop progress. Yeah, you can stop progress, because it's a definition. What you have to define progress is. My definition of progress is my definition of progress is if you went down to a shopping center and bulldozed the shopping center down and planted a bunch of trees or dug a pond there. That would be progress to me. What is not progress to me is going through there and knocking down a bunch of old oak trees and making a shopping center. So you can stop it. It's just a frame of reference. And I think at some point in existence as a human species, we've got to reel it back in. And it just made me think, when Ray Scott died, it just made me think about looking back to that time when Ray and Forrest Wood and those guys were at the top of their game. We just don't have that anymore. We've lost that innocence, but like I said, we can get it back. So I'd invite everybody to join the club with me and start to get a little bit more on the anti-progress side. I think that will make for a much healthier human experience, a lot more less stressful, and give it a try and see how that works. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate it.